How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome, welcome back to Turner's Chapel AME Church. I get this voice when I have a microphone. Yeah. How's everybody doing tonight? It's a Thursday night. Is everybody ready to party? Welcome, welcome. Did everybody get a sandwich? Mayonnaise sandwich. Everybody got one? There are 4 packets of mayonnaise for each person. Y'all better take one home. All right, all right. Welcome to the UniteNC Guilford County's Ready to Vote Community Education event. Who's ready to vote in here? I see a few hands. I see a few hands. I love it. I love it. My name is Sailor Jones. I use he, him pronouns. I am Associate Director at Common Cause, North Carolina. Have y'all heard of Common Cause, North Carolina? Yes, yes. We are here doing a 100-county community education tour all across this great state. But as I told my friends in the back, we wouldn't go anywhere without kicking it off at Turner's Chapel AME. Amen? Still the best stop on the tour. Don't quote me on that. It's on Facebook Live. All right. So we're going to get this party started tonight. We'll try to get ready late and get you out of here early. How's that sound? All right. We're going to be sharing a little bit about the elections changes that are coming in 2024, the voting changes that are happening in 23 and 24, and most importantly to a lot of you in Guilford County, the redistricting changes that have come in 23 for 2024. Who has heard a little bit about some redistricting changes that are going to be happening to the great state of the Triad in the coming year? Everybody's heard. Okay. My favorite person, Tyler Day, will be talking a little bit about the maps to begin with. We normally had those things at the end, but tonight we're going to talk about them right at the start because that's why a lot of you are here tonight. We are doing this 100-county tour for one reason and one reason only. It's not because we don't think the people in the room here don't vote. Let's make that perfectly clear. We are creating trainings in a train-the-trainer model. Every single thing I say tonight, every slide we show, every ounce of that booklet that you received when you came in, and every question you ask will go into a toolkit with responses that I expect every single person in here to share with every human being they know and a couple of their pets before the 2023 and 2024 elections. Amen? It is going to be very important because there are at least 3 people who live in Guilford County who are not here tonight, right? Who deserve to know how to vote in the next election, amen? So this is going to be so important that we learn how to talk to other people about the very important changes that are happening to your elections, your vote, and your districts next year, okay? Are y'all ready? Can we click forward one more time, Ratrina? So I would like to thank Turner's Chapel for having us again. There is no house of worship we prefer to go to anymore than Turner's Chapel, okay? Thank you for having us. It is a lovely place to be. We were here for the UniteNC Town Hall, the Legislative Accountability Tour, and the logical next step was to come back home now that the laws have passed to tell you how to talk about them, okay? I want to thank the High Point NAACP as well. Dr. Hairston, would you say a few words about the NAACP and some events that are coming up soon that we think people should know about?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. The High Point NAACP is a place where we try to bring to life the advocacy and the actions that impact the lives of Black people, all people of color, and all citizens of High Point in the areas of equity in our institutions. But what we have been confronted with recently is we have been consumed with getting out the vote and mobilizing our community as it relates to the upcoming municipal elections. The first thing I want to bring to your attention is we have a Get Out the Vote initiative that will be at Cedro Park, 1720 Cedro, this Saturday, November the 4th, at 10 o'clock. It'll only be a couple of hours. You know, if you can come and just spend an hour. We pair off in twos. We have lists that we go out, and we leave information about voting, information about the calendar as it relates to early voting, and rides to the polls as well. So if you would pass that word, we have these flyers out there. If you would pass that word to any and everybody you know to meet us there and spend just an hour. If you have 3 hours, great. If you have 1 hour, please come out and help us, because the reason we're working that particular area of High Point, that area has a large number of people registered to vote, but they don't go out to vote, which is the case really all around the city. But we're focusing our efforts there. Out there on the table, please take 2 press releases. These are two of our latest press releases that we have put out this month. The first press release is about informing you as to what is happening to you based on what is going on in Raleigh. So many of us are unaware of all the things that's happening, and we need to understand what's going on. So that is a motivation for you to take this information that Common Cause is giving you, take this information that we're giving you, and go out and tell somebody about it. The first press release is More Than We Bargained For, the North Carolina State Budget Wins and Losses. And we have more losses than wins. Please take that home with you and understand what they slipped under the wire while we were asleep, if you will. The second press release we just put out last week, it talks about redistricting, good faith effort. For those of you who do not know, the North Carolina legislature just removed the term good faith effort from minority contracting for the state of North Carolina. Now, don't ask me why they did that. You know why they did it. But anyway, it's going to make it more difficult for underutilized businesses to get those state contracts. As you know, federal, state, and local MWBEs, as it relates to contracts for women, minority, and black small businesses, they have never reached the level that they should have reached as it relates to contracts that we are awarded. Now, with this being removed, what do you think is going to happen? That number is going to be even less. And that impacts the economic viability of small business people, especially women, minorities, and black small businesses in this city. Also, you've got slowing the mail delivery. If you all have noticed, your mail is being delivered quite more slowly than in the past. Well, Mr. DeJoy has a 10-year plan to slow down the mail. Who would have thought? Who wants to slow down the mail? You got the looming shutdown coming up, and the person that's over the Speaker of the House now, he said that incident on January 6th was tourism. That's who you have over your speaker. Please be informed, and these documents actually inform you as to what is going on, and you can inform your neighbors, which hopefully will be a motivation to know, no matter how many barriers they put up, we are going to get out the vote and show those folks that are trying to keep us from voting that we're going to go out and vote in spite of. Thank you so much.
Incredibly important to understand that for everyone in here, including Dr. Hairston, there are singular issues that are driving people to the polls in 2024. We had a town hall here not that long ago. I was reminded it was about 2 months ago. And the top issues that were driving people to the polls in 2024 were economic justice, public education, and abortion access. The very top issue, though, that was driving people to the polls was voting. In North Carolina, people are literally voting to be able to vote in this state. And that is why we are here, to connect those issues to people who are going to go out to vote in 2024, but also people who are considering not going out to vote in 2024 because of the vast amount of barriers to voting access that are there for them. I want to give a shout out to Ms. Turner and Ms. Suzanne. They came back immediately. You were the first two people to come back and say, we have held our lawmakers to account the best we can, okay? Now we got to get everybody we know to the polls. Y'all were the first two to come back and say, come back. Tell us how we're going to make it happen. So could y'all stand and we give you a round of applause for being the first people? Every single person here is a member of this community who has taken it upon yourself to come here on a Thursday night, very late, when you could be eating Halloween candy, and learn a little bit about some of the voting changes and district changes that are happening. Ms. Turner, Ms. Suzanne, we applaud you, and we are so grateful to have you here in Guilford County's community and in this state. You were heroes. Speaking of heroes, and could we go one slide further? I want to point out Ratrina Campbell in the back, who is our organizing manager. Mr. Tyler Day, homegrown Guilford County, our maps man. And my best friend in the triad, Miss Linda Sutton. Linda Sutton, yes, let's do it, has worked in the great state of Guilford, Forsyth, Rowan, Rockingham, Alamance, since Jesus wept. And knows more about voting in this state than any person. We're very fortunate in the triad to have the activists we do. Ms. Linda, I want you to come up just really briefly and just tell us, like you did the other night in Forsyth, why voting will be so important in 24, because you did so in language that I think people can take into community and use for the next 14 months. It certainly inspired me. Ms. Linda Sutton.
Well, I don't know any other language. I just tell it like it is. I don't have to tell you, you're here because you're concerned. And we may seem like a small crowd, but when you go back and you talk to someone else, and they talk to someone else, it multiplies, and that's the power that you have just here in this sanctuary. But, I think that what we're missing is that we're not able to talk to people on their level as to why they should be voting. Because so many people say, I'm not voting, I don't want to get registered, or you ask them about registering, I'm already registered when they're not, but the data shows it. Hundreds of thousands of people in this state are not voting anymore. They've given up. So we've got to figure out how we speak to them. How do we convince them? And the only way I know how is to ask them a simple question that I asked people the other night. Can you tell me what these things have in common? And the word is not voting. There's another word. Just think of a word that all of these issues have in common. How about Social Security? How about redlining? Gerrymandering? My garbage collection that they failed to pick up yesterday, okay? Slavery, Jim Crow laws, health care, climate change. I can go on and on. What do they all have in common? The government. If you understand that it was the government that brought us slavery, it was the government that brought us Jim Crow laws, it was the government that handed us gerrymandering, it was the government that's making laws and policies that's affecting everything in your life. Everything in your life. So why shouldn't you vote? why would you not miss that opportunity to elect somebody that can change the status of your life? And if they mess up, when a representative democracy, what do? You kick them out and you vote somebody else in until you get the right people in. If it don't work, run yourself.
That's right.
We need you to run.
That's right.
You know, volunteer for these boards and commissions. You know, serve on your board of elections. Get involved. That's part of being a citizen of this country. You've got to participate. And if you don't participate, you got what you got right now, because people have stopped participating. That's why we're where we are now. That's why I'm really happy about this tour. It's going to be exciting, but we've got to get that message to people. Why they need to be voting. They've got to understand it. You know, student loan debt. You can go on and on. The people you are electing to make laws and policies that affect your life. That's why you need to be voting. And we've got to get people to understand that. Or what? The only thing it takes for evil to flourish is for good people to do nothing? We have been doing nothing for a long time now. And look where we are. Fighting. We're voting to save voting. We're fighting for everything. Everything. My 10 grandkids, my 7 great-grands. That's why I do it. We're not even talking about public education and, you know, you can name it. Hunger is up again, you know. Look at the hundreds of thousands of people that died during COVID for no reason. It's who you elect. And guess what? If you don't vote, guess what? You elected them anyway because you stayed home and you let the evil get in, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to vote and we're going to tell somebody else why it's that important. So thank y'all for coming out. Give yourselves a hand.
Katrina, could we go to the next slide real quick? I want to highlight the fact that this tour is a little bit different than any one we've ever done before. How many people do you think, in terms of election directors, and there's one per county, we lost after 2020? How many? 40 or 50%. That means for this presidential cycle, 40 or 50% out of 100 counties are going to be brand spanking new to a presidential election cycle. So every single county on this tour, we have invited election officials to join us. Not simply to build a relationship between you and them, but also to let them know that we are not adversarial. We are not in competition or conflict. We are together. We kicked this thing off in Onslow County, and they said to us, we got 2 open positions. What was the first thing we did? We promoted that thing everywhere. Why? Because we need people to understand, who understand elections, to be working in all 100 counties. Are you with us? So Guilford County Board of Elections Director Charlie Collicutt is going to come here at 7:30. After having trained Board of Elections folks all day long. And he's going to come here to answer any questions that you have that we can't answer. And to introduce himself to you in a moment where you need to be making him your what? Best friend. Linda and I are best friends. You can't break it. But everybody else's best friend needs to be County Board of Elections Director, Mr. Charlie Collicutt. Amen? I want to give a shout out to any election officials who are in the room, and I want to give you a round of applause. Yes. It is the absolute hardest job in the state, and we are lucky, so lucky to have you here and for you doing that work. One more slide, my friend. We're going to go forward. Any candidates in the room? Any candidates in the room? Please stand. This is a community education event. I'm not introducing people, but I wanted you to know there are people in this room who took the call, who said enough, who were not happy with the status quo, and said, if you won't, I will. Can we give them a round of applause tonight? Go one more. You can go forward. So everything tonight you're going to receive via email. The slides, the guide, the presentation guide, and the FAQ. Say you have a question for Mr. Collicutt. Say you have a question for us. Everything we can and cannot answer is going into that FAQ. 100 counties worth of questions and answers. Because if you have the question, Forsyth has the question. Rockingham has the question. We all deserve to know how to navigate voting rooms. We are here to share that. We are nonpartisan. We are nonpartisan. We are nonpartisan. Unaffiliateds will soon surpass the two parties in this state to be the #1 non-party in North Carolina. This is not about Republicans and Democrats. This is about everybody voting, and let the chips fall where they may. Because I believe, as everyone in here does when we look into our hearts, that if everybody votes in this state and can vote, we all win. Amen? We center racial justice. It is not a partisan issue. Gerrymandering, voter suppression, poll taxes. A lot of laws and districts in this state have been dedicated to disenfranchising one race over another. To not acknowledge that means we're going to allow it to happen again and again. We do not ignore the past. We are working for a better what? Future. And finally, we understand you are tired. Voter registration drives, training people to use elections for their own good, door-to-door canvassing. One woman came in here tonight and said, I was just cold from the canvas. I had to come inside, right? We are here. We know it is hard work. That is why we are providing you word for word how to talk about these things and make it easy. Someone should. Let's go one more slide, please. I want to start by explaining to you the maps that now exist in Guilford County. We're going to take about 15 minutes for that, 15 minutes for the election law changes in easy, plain language, and then time for your questions for Mr. Collicutt and the rest of us. All of the questions that you have, we are going to write down and put in the FAQ. You will have it in your hot little hands with answers tomorrow. There will be no excuses not to vote in 23-24. Amen? Why is redistricting happening now? Does everybody know what redistricting is? The division of our voting maps based on equal population. Does everybody know what gerrymandering is? Oh, you're from North Carolina then. That is the manipulation of those voting maps, either for political gain or for one race over other races. It's either racial gerrymandering or partisan gerrymandering. The reason why your districts were redrawn weeks ago is because on April 28, 2023, a newly elected Supreme Court overturned a historic ruling in 2022 that found your districts were impermissible partisan gerrymanders, meaning your maps were drawn for political gain for one party over another. They overturned that ruling, giving the legislature carte blanche to redraw not only the interim congressional maps, you're going to vote for your U.S. House of Representatives in 2024, but also redraw their own maps, State House and State Senate. I would like to invite up my favorite maps man. Yes, we call them daymates for a reason. No, we're not going to do it. So we're going to offer Tyler Day the floor. We're going to talk about what your maps look like in Guilford County and how they could impact your ability to vote for the candidates of your choice in what year. 2024. Mr. Tyler Day.
All right. We can go to the next slide. I'm going to go through each of the maps and highlight Guilford County specifically. But first, this is the congressional map that passed in the state legislature, and you can see it's quite a bit different than the map that we currently have. I will say the current map is a map that would likely produce, well, we already had elections. It did produce 7 Republicans and 7 Democrats. This map has been drawn in a way that according, and I'll say we're using an analysis from Dave's redistricting app, which uses a composite of elections from 2016 through 2022 to see how the people within the districts, the way that they have been configured, to predict what the estimated vote share would be. So with this new map, the projected vote share according to Dave's redistricting would be for there to be 10 Republican districts and 4 districts elected from Democrats. This map, I will say as well, there is only one true competitive district within the map, and that's District 1, which is in the light blue shading. And also, one thing to note, the shading of the map is dependent upon how the lean of the district. So the darker the shading, the higher the lean. So you can see not very many competitive districts in this map. There were a lot of people, I will say, at the public hearings that we had this time and the public hearings we had in 2021 that asked for a triad-focused congressional district. We'll zoom in on Guilford. Well, you can go back. Yeah, not yet. If you take a look at the triad area here, you can see it is not only did legislators blatantly ignore the will of so many people here, they split the triad between 4 different congressional districts. So if you're in the eastern part of Guilford County, you can see there's a district that goes that includes Burlington. You're in Whitsett, that area. It goes all the way down to Fayetteville, Southern Pines. You've got a district, District 6, which includes High Point, stretches down to the Charlotte suburbs, Concord, and Kannapolis. And you've got District 10, which includes Winston-Salem, most of Winston-Salem, not all of Winston-Salem, and then extends down all the way to Lincoln County. And then we have District 5, which includes downtown Greensboro, most of Greensboro, and it goes all the way to the Tennessee border to include Watauga County, Ashe County, Allegheny County. This map, Dave's used, and we don't have a slide for this, but I do want to point this out. Dave's uses a certain, they use metrics to determine how fair the map is, essentially. One of the metrics that they use is proportionality. And what that measures is the map honest, essentially? If we had a hypothetical election and 50% of the state voted for Republicans to represent them in the U.S. House, and 50% voted for Democrats to elect them in the U.S. House, then a proportional map would deliver a 7-7 result, or somewhere near there. It may be 8-6. This map is not proportional. I want you to, well, I will say that the original map, the interim map that we had got a 94 out of 100, according to Dave's redistricting, in terms of proportionality. I want you all to guess what this map got. And again, the higher the score, the better. Just any guesses? 0, 10, 4, You sure? 0? That's pretty, I mean, it's got to be pretty bad to get a 0. Yeah, it got a 0. Got a 0. Yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked. Even the map that was struck down in 2011 got an 11. This one got a 0. And so that shows you just how out of whack this map is in terms of, you know, being able to, I think, accurately reflect the will of North Carolina voters. So we can go forward. So this is showing you a change here in the triad, particularly in Guilford County. Currently, you have District 6 in the blue, and Kathy Manning is the representative. You can see all of Guilford County is kept whole, and it's paired with Rockingham County, most of Caswell, and then part of Forsyth. As we go to what we will be voting in 2024, barring any legal challenges, you can see that Guilford County has been split between 3. Again, the tri as a whole split between 4. And, you know, if you're in High Point, most of High Point is in District 6. District 9 kind of looks like a backwards C wrapping around Greensboro, and then, you know, that one goes all the way down to Fayetteville. So if you're in Pleasant Garden, Forest Oaks, Whitsett, if you're on the edge of Greensboro, and the eastern edge, and then you will be in District 9. It also wraps up to the north, just north of the lakes. And then District 5 has most of Greensboro, including downtown, North Carolina A&T, and then it swoops up north to include Oak Ridge, Summerfield, most of Summerfield, and Stokesdale. And that's the one that goes to the Tennessee border. So that's essentially what we have now. We can go on. Yeah, and this is just showing you a wider shot of those districts. So again, really just cracking the triad apart and pairing it with far-off areas in other regions of the state. And this is showing you the black voting age population. The darker the shading of the precincts, the higher the black voting age population. And I wanted to show you this because you know, I think it is pretty stark. You can see within the triad, you know, portions of Greensboro, High Point, and Winston-Salem have all been paired with far-off rural areas. And so what this is essentially doing is cracking the voting population here and making it more difficult for black voters to elect their candidate of choice. Yeah, that's just a zoomed in, I think we can move past that, but that was just a zoomed in version of the Guilford County map. This is showing you the partisan lean of those precincts. And once again, it may be a little difficult to see because the black lines, black district lines are not bold, but it's the same sort of thing. You can see where the blue is, that those dark blue shadings, those precincts have a lot of Democratic voters, and they have been cracked apart to pair it with all the red that you see in the far rural areas and in other portions of the state. And that is, again, by design to create the 10-4 map, or possibly 11-3 if that swing district, District 1, were to elect a Republican. All right, so this is the Senate map that passed, and according to days for districting, the estimated vote share would be 71 Republicans and 49 Democrats. Again, these are estimates, so you know it's nothing is set in stone until you actually vote. But this is just an estimate of what it believes the estimated vote share would be. And so one of the things that we saw was a lot of different changes around the urban areas. We're going to get to Guilford County specifically. I do want to just point out in the Northeast, if you look at Districts 1 and 2, there's a high black population in that part of the state. It's often referred to as the Black Belt, and they chose to break apart that part of the state, essentially. If you look at District 2, it goes from Warren County to Carteret County. I don't think anyone asked for a district that looked like that, but I think that was, pretty egregious. All right, and so this is showing you the change in Guilford County, within the Guilford-Rockingham County cluster. The General Assembly, when it draws the state legislative districts, they do it within county cluster groupings. And so Guilford was paired with Rockingham County. They had to draw 3 districts within Guilford and Rockingham counties. So on the left, you see the 2022 map, the one that we currently have. The right is what is going into effect. At the top, you see the district lean. Those numbers, that's what that's showing. So that, R plus 14 means that district would favor a Republican by 14 points, according to Dave's Redistricting App's analysis. So what you can see, essentially, is that all of these districts have become more heavily partisan, essentially, a lot less competitive. And you can see there who is currently representing those districts. District 26 represented by Senator Phil Berger, who is the leader of the Senate, and then 27, Gladys Robinson, and 28, Michael Garrett. You can see 26, I should note, has been drawn in a way now that wraps around the county. Before it, I don't think that it was really all that good before, but when you look at it now, it's been drawn in a way that almost connects all the way around. You can see that it's been drawn to take out Greensboro and High Point, essentially. Notably, Summerfield was taken out of that district and put into District 27. District 27, which had been more High Point focused, now includes most of High Point, but also goes up to a big chunk of western Greensboro, and like I said, goes up to Summerfield. And District 28 was basically right over Greensboro, and now is a bit more spread out. Still is within Greensboro, but you can see spread out more to include areas a little bit further south and a little bit further north. And this is showing you the partisan lean of that map. So again, most of those Democratic-heavy precincts were put into Districts 28 and 27, where the Republican-leaning precincts are in District 26, and that was shown in the partisan lean of the districts. And then we have the House map, and this is the expected, actually, you know what? I'm just realizing a mistake here. I flipped those two. What I said before, 71 and 49, that was for the House. This is for the Senate, 30 and 20. So strike that. We'll get that fixed before the slides go out. But so it would be 71 Republicans and 49 Democrats for the House, 30 Republicans and 20 Democrats for the Senate, according to this analysis. But this is showing you, again, an overview of the House map, and we'll zoom into, again, Guilford County, and most of the areas, again, that we saw changes were in and around the urban centers. And this is showing you that change in Guilford County. Some pretty big changes in Districts 62 and 59, which, according to the analysis, and I should point out that those districts did not perform the way that the analysis had expected them to in the last election, but they have been drawn now to be much more favorable to Republicans. So while Districts 62 and 59 were really thought of as being toss-up districts before, they now clearly favor Republicans by decent margins. And then District 57 has changed. It did go up into Summerfield and into part of the northern sections of the county out, further north of Greensboro, and now is pulled back down really to focus on most of northern Greensboro. District 61 is relatively the same over most of central Greensboro. District 58 is most of the southern part of Greensboro. And 60, you can see, has been pared back to really focus on the central part of High Point as opposed to the way it was before. So again, these districts have been drawn to be more favorable to Republicans, and you can see there a list of the representatives in each of the districts. And this is just showing you the partisan lean over those districts. So again, Democratic precincts have been packed together into those districts in the middle, and then 62 and 59 are much more favorable to Republicans. And so I've gone over a lot of this already, but these maps are the result of clear gerrymanders. They were clearly drawn to favor the politicians that are in power. So I'm not going to go through all of that, but I do want to say, if any of this has concerned you, then, we are a part of a coalition of organizations called People Over Politicians, and we are calling for an independent commission to draw these districts because we think that it should be citizens deciding what these districts look like. We know our communities, and as long as you have politicians drawing the district lines, they're going to likely draw them to favor themselves. Democrats did it when they were in power. Republicans are doing it now. I should note the leaders of the General Assembly, Speaker Moore, Senator Berger, supported an independent commission in 2009 when they were in the minority, and it was the Democrats that were gerrymandering. So I'm going to pass this around if you'd like to sign it. All it is showing support for an independent citizens commission to draw the districts, and there's a spot if you want to get involved to volunteer in the future. So thank you.
So they packed and cracked Guilford. They blunted the competition between parties, and they've done so in a way that dilutes your ability to elect candidates of your choice. The only way to break a gerrymander is to do what? Break voting records. In 2020, over 75% of North Carolinians voted. 75% turnout of those who were eligible to vote who had registered to vote. Chris Cooper and Michael Bitzer are two political scientists who presented at the state conference, the summer conference that all county election directors go to. They predicted those numbers would be higher in 2024. They will need to be higher to overcome the gerrymanders in Guilford County. That is why we are here. We are helping you to overcome gerrymanders, breaking them by breaking voting records in 2024. Do you think you can do it? I think this crowd can. Fortunately, we have experts to help us. I am very, very proud to introduce County Board of Elections Director Charlie Collicutt to tell you a little bit about, in 2023, there's voter ID. Charlie.
Thank you. Yeah, we're doing photo ID. I'm in High Point, and that's appropriate because we've had the trial run, a little trial run, a minor trial run. We've had our High Point primary back in October. We're doing a High Point and a lot of other cities and towns across Guilford County on Tuesday. Early voting is going on. So I want to walk you through some of the information on these slides and then tell you, what are we seeing as we've implemented it. I know it's a small sample size, but what's going on as we've implemented it, and what can we look at, what do we need to know, what can I tell you about what the law says about how the administrative code is written, about how policies are written in order to implement this photo ID. So as the slide says, shows, we're asking for photo ID. Every voter has to provide a photo ID with some caveats. Here's the list: a U.S. passport or passport card, a state-issued ID or non-operator's ID. This is everything you can get from the DMV. Your NC voter ID card, we're giving them out free at our Board of Elections office in Greensboro and in High Point. Some student ID cards, okay, some. I think that the yellow box at the bottom shows that it's not all, but it's some. And some employee IDs from some governments and charter schools. Not all of them, some of them are. Those folks know, our staff, our poll workers know. And out-of-state driver's licenses. Okay, those are ones that have to have an expiration date. Okay, so that sounds simple, but here's a caveat. Can it be expired? Yes, but only expired by up to a year. So if anybody in this room has their driver's license, don't be worried about the expiration date if it just expired. Go, show it. If it's been less than a year, you're going to be okay. Okay, here's caveat 2 to make this even more complicated. If you're 65 or older, it can be expired if it expired after you turn 65. So if you're 70 years old and you go in and you have a driver's license that expired when you were 66, you're good, even though it's been quite a while. If it expired when you were 64, you're out of luck. You've got to find one of these other IDs. So that's what we're seeing. I've been training poll workers for the last couple of days. I trained poll workers last month. I have poll workers here in the room, so they're doing a great job. They know what they're doing. There's other IDs too. I don't know if you have the slide, but military IDs are okay. There it is. Public assistance IDs with a picture, which we don't have. There's a lot of tribal IDs. There's about 14 pages worth of tribal IDs that my poll workers have to know. So there is a lot of things that work. There's a lot of things that we carry in our pocket that don't work. You know, the Costco card doesn't work, but the driver's license does. I will tell you this, and I'm not going to get necessarily into the why. I think that's something that I'll leave for the other people here. But what we're seeing, what we saw in the primary is the voters did it. The voters had it. The poll workers did it right. And here's what's not on the slides that I want to touch base on if I can take a second. Of these things, this is very important. But what we found is a few voters that though they might have known this, maybe they didn't, they weren't confident in what they had. And that's what led to problems. So I'm going to tell you the standards that are in the administrative code that my poll workers are following. This is not Charlie's policy. This is not a State Board of Elections memo. This is in the administrative code. So this is what we need to tell people. If someone says, well, I have a license, but I'm not sure if it's going to work. For what does it look like? This is our standard out of the code. Reasonable resemblance. All right, reasonable resemblance. And in the code, we can understand that there are reasons why people's IDs don't look like them now. Okay, we have to understand that. Beyond lighting conditions, we're looking at the effects of aging. We're looking at hair, wigs, piercings, tattoos, makeup, different things that we have, hair. You know, we are looking beyond just the obvious things. We are looking for what would a reasonable person conclude beyond, is it more likely or not that this is the person? We're not looking for this precision, okay? We are looking for a reasonable resemblance. So people need to know that. People might be afraid and say, I don't have it. I've changed. You know, I had cancer. I don't have any hair. Or in my driver's license, I had a buzz cut. And now I have long hair. Go to the polls with that ID, and we're going to establish a standard of reasonable resemblance. Okay. With your name, a lot of people may have name issues. We are looking at, this is the official term out of the administrative code, substantial equivalence for name. We can look past a middle name issue. We can look past initials. We can look past hyphenations. Some cultures, with the name order can be different. Middle names, what's a middle name and a last name versus a double last name? These are things that we are not looking for this precise match. We are looking for substantial equivalence. And here's an example of why this is important. We had a voter go and vote a provisional ballot because she, when asked to present her ID, she said, "I don't have one." She did have one. It was in her pocket. It was her driver's license. But her middle name was different on her driver's license than the maiden name that was on the voter record. So she just said no. Our poll worker said, "Okay," and they moved on to the next process. My training now is don't let them just say no. Say, "What do you have?" Turn your purse over. Let's look. You might have something that works. If she had shown it, she would have been fine because it's clearly a substantial name equivalence. So don't when you go out and talk to people, don't let them say, "Well, I haven't got my license changed since I got married." Go try. Go try. Don't let people use those documents to stay home or not pull it out. Okay? Any questions about those standards? I don't know if this is Q&A time, but I want to make sure that we're okay. And those are not made up. Those are in the administrative code, passed unanimously by the bipartisan State Board of Elections. Okay, so make sure you've got one of those. The free photo ID, free photo ID, 301 West Market Street, and then our Russell Street, 325 East Russell Street for the High Point office. Go there. It takes about 2 minutes to get a free ID made. If you want to bring a group, call ahead just so we can coordinate it, but you don't have to. This is not an appointment process. You just show up, and we'll have it made for you. I'm doing events like this. I've been live on TV. I'm trying to get the word out. It's hard. This is a small High Point election. The media is not focused on this quite yet, but they will. They will, and we got to make sure that they are focused on this as we go. So you want to go ahead. This is the big one. So if you don't have ID, then go anyways, because you're going to fill out an affidavit, a provisional ballot, which we don't love, but it's a great safety net. Do it. Go vote your provisional ballot. You're going to fill out an affidavit, and you're going to say one of these check boxes. You're going to check that and sign it. If you are truthful with that document, the Board of Elections is going to examine it, and that provisional ballot will be counted unless all 5 Board of Elections members deem it to be false. So we have 5 board members. This is one of those weird things where majority doesn't rule. One person, if 4 people say this is false and one person says no, I believe it to be true, this provisional ballot counts. So don't think that this is a punishment. Once you have to do this affidavit, woe is me. It's not going to count. If you fill it out honestly, it takes 1 board member. I know we have one here in this room. It takes 1 board member to say no, that is the truth, and count that. So this should be a process that can survive changes of board members, changes of partisanship, even number boards, the need for a unanimous vote. So go ahead. Is there another slide on this? Okay, good. That's the form we're talking about. All right. In Guilford County on Election Day, the form will be yellow. So if you hear about the yellow form, do your yellow form. If you don't want to do the yellow form, you can always show up at our office with an ID or get one made, have it come off the printer, turn around and show it back to me, and you can satisfy the photo ID requirement for your ballot. So 2 things if you don't have an ID. Do the photo ID affidavit or say, I'm going to come back to the Board of Elections office and show them an ID or get one made and show it to them. You do that, honestly, and the provisional ballot will be counted. If the poll workers don't think it's you in that picture, this is what I want to touch on. One last thing on here. If they don't think it's you, they're going to hold a little hearing. And again, this is one where there are protections for the voter. So don't think, woe is me, okay? The chief judge and 2 judges that are from your community, we have some here, they have to unanimously agree that that's not you in order to deny you the use of that ID. If they do, you turn around and you do this photo ID exception form, okay? And you still have a chance. Again, there are multiple steps to get you a ballot. It might not count until our canvas if it's a provisional, but if you fill it out honestly, it is going to count. So do this, and all that information is great. That is exactly right, and I hope, and that's going to go out to everybody. So that's great. The mail-in. Okay, a mail-in ballot is a great way to vote. We had 75,000 people request absentee mail ballots in 2020. 50,000 of them voted. This year they've got to show ID, and you might ask yourself, well, what about all the people that can't make a photocopy of their ID and send that in? And that's tough. I don't have a photocopier at home. How do I do a photo ID while casting an absentee ballot? There is a photo ID exception for absentee voting. You got to put your social security number or your driver's license number on this one. There is a checkbox for, I can't make a photocopy. So this is not, again, this is a way to vote. Despite the photo ID process can produce hurdles for some people, there are ways, as long as people don't just give up initially in the process. Okay, these are some law changes. This is someone else is going to talk about this, but I'll be here to answer questions about some of these. And just really quickly, as we talk about these, you can go back to the law changes or whatever. I just want to point out, I am not yet going in front of the media talking too much about the 2024 changes, because we still have a fairly large, nearly 100,000 people eligible to vote in Guilford County under the old 2023 laws. So I'm trying not to conflate the two right now. So I'm going to talk only about 2023 right now. If you want to ask questions about 2024, I'll be here. Thank you, guys. ID question? I can take ID questions now. Yes. Yeah. Sure. The canvass process it's a term that we kind of take for granted, but what the first thing to point out is that election night, when you see those results come in on election night, that is not the official results. Okay? The canvass process is a long staff process culminated by the Board of Elections finally certifying that these are the true results. So we're adding in provisional ballots. We're adding in absentee by mail ballots that came in on election day or beyond. We are auditing. We audit the heck out of these ballots. We go in front of the board and make sure they have what they need to understand that these ballots have been tabulated correctly and tabulated lawfully, that we've audited, and once that process is complete, through a process of canvassing these results, the Board of Elections will certify the official results. So it's the final process. It's going to be on November 17th for this. It's 10, except for some smaller primaries, most elections, it's going to be 10 days after the election. You had a question in the back. Yeah. Yes.
When we're talking about the ID, the photo ID, is it 17 or that's turning 18 by election day, or is there a younger time where a student can fill out
Right. Great question. High school voters, 17, not just high school, but 17-year-olds, 17-year-old can register if they'll be 18 by the time the general comes around. They can register to vote properly and get a photo ID once registered. 16-year-olds in North Carolina can pre-register. They cannot get a photo ID. They are kind of held in a queue, and when they turn 17, then they get processed. Yes. Yes. You're going to do that one in a second. Okay, just photo ID only right now. Yes. Will you be able to call the Board of Elections to see what district? Yes. So we can't process this now. We've got these, we're in the middle of a High Point election. I can't mess with my district lines. It's a long process. We have in Guilford County, one thing that Tyler didn't mention is that we have precincts that are split. So some of the voters will vote in one district, some will vote in the other. These precinct splits occur on the census block line, and we have to go in with giant maps and figure out where some of these lines are going to be. So some districts, some voters, it's easy to tell you. I could tell you today. I can look in the statute and say, you're this one. Some are going to be hard, so we're going to have some time. We've got to get through this High Point election right now. Yes. Great question. The question is about the signature not matching on an absentee by mail ballot. We do not do signature matching in North Carolina at this time. If the Board of Elections sees that and it is clearly not the voter, they can examine that, but not just a signature. There's not an automatic signature comparison. If we catch it a lot of times with a husband and wife signing the wrong ballot or something like that, and we have ways to cure those things. But we are not, at this time, doing a signature match. We rely on 2 witnesses to sign. Yes. Great question. If a voter has to do a photo ID exception, or they say, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to bring my ID later, either one of those voters can bring that ID to the Board of Elections office by 5 p.m. on the day before canvass. So for this High Point and Summerfield, all these other cities and towns, it is 5 o'clock on November 16th. For subsequent elections, it's going to be that 9th day after. Okay. Yes? So the question, same-day registration? Yes, we do have same-day registrations, same-day registrations for someone that's not registered. They come to an early voting site. They can fill out a registration form. They're going to have to show the photo ID. They've also got to show something with current address on it. It might be the ID. It might be something else. So same days are still okay in North Carolina. They're going to be okay in 2024 with some slight adjustments. I just wanted to point out, I failed to mention this, on the photo ID, address doesn't matter. Address doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter. If they're out of state, it can matter, okay, as long as it's they've been registered for 90 days from the election. But don't let somebody that just didn't change their address at the DMV, don't let them say, I don't have it, I'm not going in. Address doesn't matter. Whether it's in this county, another county, it's a North Carolina license we're looking at. Okay, all right, I'm going to pass it back now.
I just take it down. For some reason, I don't know I can walk. I can't walk with the glasses, but I can see with the glasses. I don't know what that's about. But, yeah, so we're going to move into 2024. There's more. So in 2024, our state legislatures who are on the ballot in 2024 passed major election changes, like our bill called SB 747 that will go into effect in January 2024. And we getting ready, y'all. So just a few changes as far as voting by mail. In 2023, voters' mail-in ballots must be received by the County Board of Elections by 5 p.m., no later than 3 calendar days after the election. But in 2024, those mail-in ballots must be received by the County Board of Elections by 7:30 p.m. on Election Day. So it will not be that 3-day calendar grace period. As far as our voter challenges, any voter in a precinct can challenge that precinct's absentee ballots and can file voter challenges up to the closing of the polls on Election Day. But in 2024, any voter in a county can challenge absentee ballots of voters in that county during early voting and Election Day and can file challenges up to 5 business days after the election. So that's one of the another change that is being made from 2023 into 2024 was the change is going to be. And then we have our voter privacy. Right now, no voter assistant laws, basically like a record of who helps voters. In 2024, that's going to change. Implements would be a voter assistant log. It includes name and address of the person assisting the voter, the time they entered the poll, and the person's signature. I've seen out front how we have the rides to the polls. You may actually have to have a log and write your name and your address and that you're assisting them. Right now in 2023, that is not the case, but that will be the case in 2024. It could be. Mm-hmm. It's, yes, curbside, yes. That could be possible for curbside voting. Now, that may be different. You can walk in and vote. But as far as curbside, then it may be, you may have to do this voter assistant log. Okay. Okay. Okay, no, like curbside voting. Okay. But if you do curbside voting, that is possible. Or if you go in to assist. So. Yes. You have to put your name and address down. Mm-hmm. So just want to, and then we do have these new rules coming in 2024, which make it even more vital to mail in your ballot early. So that's just a pro tip. To be safe, we want to just always put this out there. We know how the mail is. Dr. Harrison, you have already mentioned it earlier, right? Now they can slow mail down. So we definitely want everyone getting there. If you're going to mail in your ballot, please get it in early. Our pro tip to be safe is to make sure you mail in your ballot and complete it and mail your ballot in at the start of the 7-day early voting period. So, next slide. All right, in 2024, there could be even more. I know, could there be more, right, after everything I just said? The implications for a bill called 7B 749, known as the Election Takeover Bill, will go even further, potentially creating gridlock in our elections beginning January 2024. So we have our State Board of Elections in 2023, a 5-member board chosen by the governor elected statewide. In 2024, that will be an 8-member board chosen by legislative leaders. Yes. Our county boards of elections right now is a 5-member board chosen by state board and governor. In 2024, you're talking about a 4-member board chosen by legislative leaders. Election decisions. Ties are broken by the uneven board itself. That's in 2023. In 2024, potential deadlock votes down party lines could create this gridlock on key decisions. So what we're saying is this 4-member board that will consist of 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans, or either 2 Democrats or 2 Republicans on the county level, will have to come together and agree on like early voting plans. So you're talking about, I'm from High Point, born and raised, but I'm now in Mecklenburg. We have almost 1 million folks in Mecklenburg. So you're talking about if there is deadlock on the county level, it goes to the state, it's still deadlocked. It could come down to just 1 early voting site. So you're talking about almost 1 million people going to one early voting site, which would be at the county boards of elections. And that could happen across the state in each county. He did. Exactly. Yes.
One early voting site in Halifax County, when we had the uniform hours that drained money away from weekends and went to weekday hours, it went from 4 in Halifax County to 1. People were driving 45 minutes to vote early in our big landmass counties. Can't have that happen in 2024. We have to have multiple options, including for our campuses. And the best way to do that is for our board members to agree how important your vote is.
Yes. All right. So we getting ready in 2024 because we know, like we said, in 2024, there's more. So we had in 2023, there's voter ID. In 2024, there's more. So we're going to make a plan to vote. We'll make sure y'all understand the new voter ID law, the likelihood of new voting districts, and the stakes, which we talked about here tonight. And like Sailor had mentioned, you will get all the slides. You will get the script. You will get everything that we've been talking about tonight. And we want to make sure you plan to register and vote with your family and friends. We have our booklets that we had at the front, has this information in it as well. We want to make sure that I am registered to vote at my current address. Please check that. Make sure you're good. We also have the Let's Take 5 to make sure you're registered. You can scan right up there. Check your registration. Make sure you're good to go. You can also send it. Send it to your family and friends. Make sure they registered and they ready to go. So if you want to take a moment, make sure you're good. Everybody in here? Everybody? Okay. I got it. We just want to make sure everybody is good and ready. And if not, we need to get you ready and get you registered. Sailor? Thank you. You go to the next one. Also, we had here our director, County Board of Directors here talk about using same-day registration. So voters are asked if it's their first time voting. We do have information here in the state or to re-register every time you move. That's why it's so important to check. Every time you move, I need to change your voter record, name change, your party, etc. The regular voter registration deadline in North Carolina is 25 days before an election. But eligible voters can register and vote on the same day during your county early voting. That is why early voting is so important. But we know not on election day. So to register and vote on the same day, you must bring your photo ID to verify your identity. And we have already mentioned what those IDs are, but also if you do not, that exception form as well. But also fill out a registration form and show one of the following HAVA documents to verify your current address, which is a current government document showing your name and mailing address, such as your driver's license or your current mailing address, a current utility bill, a current bank statement, a current government check, a current paycheck, and proof of campus of habilitation issued by the college or university, like a transcript or a student roster paired with a current college university photo identification card, which we talked about as well as one of those IDs where we had 99 of those schools that are registered to use their ID to vote. And remember to avoid problems with your vote being counted. Make sure you can receive your mail at the mailing address on your registration form, because I think it goes twice. Once it goes that second time, if it doesn't hit you and they don't get you, I just made that up, then you will be taken off those rolls. So we want to. Mm-hmm. Yes.
747, though, one piece of mail comes to your house. If it bounces, it takes away your registration and your vote.
Yeah, so
make sure when you use same-day registration, you can receive mail at the address where you register so that we can save not only your registration, but your ballot.
yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, now we're on how you can help. Get engaged. This was 747. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about how you can help. For one, thank y'all for being out here tonight. This is definitely, go ahead, I'm sorry. Help, because people going to get out and vote. That's the good news. We're going to turn this out, y'all. We're going to turn this around. And the only way to do that is to get people out to vote, is to talk to your networks. Being here tonight is definitely already the start of that. All the work that everyone out here is doing, that's already the start of that. we have a lot of voters out there who just need to get information, who just need to hear from you, and who need to get out and turn out in 2024. And we have ways to do that with our voter education and training to help your networks prepare for upcoming elections, distribute resources, host an event, work for a common cause where you live. Right now, we're in Fayetteville, we're in Charlotte area. Of course, we're here, Triad, and also in the Northeast. We're definitely giving all this information out at this train-the-trainer type of presentation. Wherever you need us, we go. We drive across the state. I mean, we're going to the Northeast around the 13th, so I'm going to drive 5 hours. And I don't mind doing it because it's that important. And also, so please let us know. Definitely sign up for our action team. Then we have our voter engagement and contact. You can reach out to voters beyond your networks to make sure they have what they need. That is phone banking, text banking, door-to-door canvassing. I know y'all have met Gino before, so he handles a lot of that back end for us, making sure you have them numbers, making sure you have them numbers for text bank. I'll also be working with everyone in here who wants to do this as well, doing our door-to-door canvassing and those phone bankings. So definitely we need your help there. We're going to have to knock a lot of doors in 2024. Oh, I made up another one, a lot of doors in 2024. All right, and then we have election and advocacy and monitoring, which we have Tyler Day back here, handles a lot of that work along with Ann as well, who's our policy director. But you'll work with our county officials to expand opportunities to cast our ballot, I say our ballot, and make sure those ballots count. So that is canvas monitoring, which is our High Point director here that we talked about already, and also elections funding and early voting advocacy, which we need so much. And you're talking about next year when you're talking about those 2 and 2 and 4 and 4, you know, Democrat, Republican, all working together. We need eyes on that. We need people to advocate for what you know that your community needs, deserves, not even what it needs, what it deserves, and what it should be getting. And also to support our directors coming out here tonight and support our members, our county boards of election members, and making sure they're getting what they need to make sure the community gets what they need. So also we have our election advocacy and monitoring, so definitely need support in that area as well. It'll be changing 2024 because it has to change from like the 5-member board to the 4-member board. And so you have to also with the state.
So typically a regular purging takes about 9 years, so you can be declared dead before you can be removed from the poll, or before you can be removed from the voting polls. What you're talking about is the registration process, so that if that your voter registration form is sent to you in the mail and it's returned, then you're never really officially registered. So it's a little bit different. But the changeover for the Board of Elections, with my understanding, is going to be probably in June of 2024. Right now, the 5-member board that we have is working on the early voting schedule primary that will take place in February. But the new board that will come into play, the 4-member board that will come into play in June, will be the ones deciding on early voting sites. Most of the times are already designated, but it will be like Saturdays and Sundays, whether you'll have that or not. And even now, that is very contentious. All the boards in North Carolina have 3 Democrats right now and 2 Republicans. And we do have to agree, and we've already had some disagreements on Sunday voting. We've also had some disagreements on some voting sites for 2024 early. So we're trying to get along. It's difficult.
You made a great point on the deadlock issue. You focused it on early voting, but there's deadlock that can do a lot of other things. So with early voting, there's kind of at least there's a something that can occur. If a board can't come up with additional sites and the state board can't give you additional sites because they can't pass a motion, there's a default to one early voting site. At least there's that. Think about other processes that we do. The hiring of a Board of Elections director, the firing of a Board of Elections director, the certification of the election is the big nuclear thing. But down to the small level, absentee by mail ballots. When a voter sends in an absentee by mail ballot, it's not anything until it's approved. And to approve it, it takes a motion. Without a motion, it just sits in a box in a vault. So there are other repercussions for tie votes where motions cannot pass beyond just the early voting schedule. That's a huge thing, but it goes down to the individual level too. Early voting plans, yes, but the small stuff. And so it really is a parliamentary issue as much as anything. Without a motion, nothing happens. So that's the great unknown, and it's how quick does a judge step in or something. It's been thrown around that the General Assembly steps in. There are a few instances that the General Assembly steps in if the 4-member Board of Elections or the 8-member state board can't elect a chairman or elect a state director. Our current state director, she's going to be gone, and they're going to elect a new state director. Luckily, in this bill, there was enough 100 directors that got to their local legislatures where they protected us, and we're not in that stream, still under the Board of Elections. But without a motion, what happens? Nothing. Sorry.
I just want to point out, we're not simply going to Guilford County. Every county is different. And there are plenty of board members who have not heard, like this crowd has not, of Senate Bill 749. They were just appointed. They do not know there is a reappointment process potentially coming as soon as January, but more likely in summer. And so we are going to their counties to educate them about this. Just advocates, random advocates who just happen to be watching the General Assembly like Director Collicott was and thinking about elections. And for great board members who are there, who are interested in the community, it would be a huge loss to have them replaced. Because not only are they kind to voters, but they are experienced in the process. And that is a major issue going into a major presidential cycle, as you can imagine. So we need everyone here, maybe not Guilford, but you get my point, to attend county commission meetings, because the county commission, not Charlie, defines how much money you have for your elections, and therefore how many early voting sites you can possibly have to go to your county commission meeting. We need for you to go to your monthly county board of election meeting, sorry, and monitor what happens and advocate for the early voting sites you want. Because I guarantee you, the most contentious sites in any counties are the ones where souls get to the polls, are the ones that cater to our students, and the ones that may have less turnout overall, but that cater to the most marginalized voters in that county. We need to defend them and make our voices heard to both Democrats and Republicans on the board, no matter who they are in 2024. So can we agree that voter education in our networks tonight, what you have learned, is important? Can we agree that direct voter contact to people outside of our networks is important? Because while I know y'all have a lot of friends, it's not all of Guilford County. And third, can we all agree that our county board of elections and our relationships with experienced election officials has never been more important? We love them. We give them a big hug. We want them to succeed. When they succeed, who succeeds? We do. In 2023, there's what? Voter ID. But in 2024, there's a lot more. We need to educate everyone we've got. I want to thank Retrina, Director Collicott. I want to thank Tyler. Yeah, Tyler Day, go ahead. Okay, go. Yeah. Yes.
I forgot to mention before is that on our website, we are publishing a summary of the Dave's Redistricting app analysis. So if you want to dive deeper into that, then be looking out for that. And it will have interactive maps from Dave's Redistricting app and an interactive Google Maps of each of the districts. So you can dive in and see, exactly where you fall within the district lines. Yeah, I can tell you that there are groups that are looking at, the possibilities of legal action on the maps. As we said before, unfortunately, partisan gerrymandering is legal in North Carolina because the North Carolina Supreme Court decided that it was. Racial gerrymandering is not legal, and there could be issues there with these maps. But that is more difficult, unfortunately, I think, to prove. And so it's complicated. But I can assure you that there are a lot of people looking at these maps and trying to see, what is possible in terms of legal action, because these maps are, I think, a disservice to the state, and quite frankly, insulting to the voters based upon the enormous comments that we got from the public hearings of people saying, don't gerrymander, don't do this, keep our communities together, and they blatantly did the opposite. So, yeah. Well, yeah, that's a great question as well. So in 2019, there was a case, Rucho v. Common Cause, that went to the U.S. Supreme Court and challenged the 2016 maps. That was the map, by the way, that split North Carolina A&T in half, and a map in which legislators on the record, as they did this time, admitted to drawing the districts for partisan gain. They actually said this in a committee meeting. But in 2019, that case went to the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court said, this is awful. This is bad. This is really bad. But they essentially said, we can't do anything about it. They said that this was an issue that should be left up to the states, and that the federal courts should not be getting involved. And so what did we do? We took it to North Carolina when they drew their 2021 map. That's why we challenged that map, which was a partisan gerrymander. We won in state court in 2022, but the court changed. The composition of the court changed, and therefore they chose to overturn that ruling. So that's why we are where we are, and that's why I am pushing this need for an independent commission, because ultimately it all comes back to us. And the only way that we're going to get past this, I think, is through an independent citizens commission. And the only way you get that is if you have legislators that are willing to implement that. So I would be, all of these legislators that drew these district lines that approved these lines, they are up for re-election next year. I would be asking them, what do you, I'd be asking them, why did you draw the maps the way that you did? And I'd be asking them, do you support an independent commission? Do you think that, and I will say, another thing, we've heard from legislators regarding Senate Bill 749, which, we've talked about, that would cause gridlock on the board. I will say that the commission that we are advocating for would be an odd number of commissioners, so that you wouldn't have that type of gridlock. And Senate Bill 642, I should say, has been introduced based upon that. But I will say that, legislators have talked about Senate Bill 749 as being important, because they have said that it's important for there to be bipartisanship in election administration. I would question where is that bipartisanship in the drawing of our voting districts? Because that is, to me, that's where all the election administration starts. It is with those voting districts first. So again, I would be asking these questions to legislators, that's why it's so important. And again, these are state legislators doing this, that have this power, and the governor has no power to veto these maps. So that's why it's so important that we hold our state legislators accountable, and that we are asking these questions, and that they know, state legislators, one of the reasons why they do this is because they don't think that we're paying attention. They don't think that we know. But we have to make sure that they know that we know, and that we're asking them these questions.
And the committee that drew these lines for all-male committee, there were no women. We did some research on the folks, and we wrote letters, and they never answered the letters. But there were all men. There were no women drawing any of these districts. And to your question about something that recently happened, research what Justice Roberts in the Supreme Court just ruled on the South Carolina issue. It's not true. Just research that. I just read the ruling and research it. What he said as it relates to the same issue that's going on in South Carolina, it is not encouraging at all.
Just a point on that. In the House, according to the redistricting chair, Destin Hall, he said that there was a consultant that drew the House map. I'm sure with support from him. And in the Senate, it was the 3 co-chairs of the Senate Redistricting Committee No, all men. No, they were all men. But my point is that it's a bit deeper than that. I should point out there was no one from the triad involved in drawing these districts. There is a redistricting committee, and there are members of the committee from the triad, but they were involved in actually drawing the districts. It was just the co-chairs of the redistricting committee. And this is what I mean. When you have a situation where you have such a small group of people that are in charge of our maps. I mean, we're talking about a state of over 10 million people, and you've got a consultant who came in from Ohio who drew the House map, again, in consultation with the chair of the House Redistricting Committee, and then you've got 3 co-chairs in the House, and again, no one, from this part of the state, no one from the entire eastern part of the state involved in that process. So that's why it's so important that we have an independent process and we take this out of the hands of politicians. And I will say, You know, every time I say Democrats were awful when they were in power. They could have done this. They could have implemented a commission when they were in power, and they chose not to. And they drew egregious district lines when they were in power as well. So it is up to us to make that change. Thank you.
And Aaron may get a copy of that press release out on the table because it's got a lot of information on there that people just don't know what's happening.
What is the governorship gerrymander? No. Is the state Supreme Court gerrymander? No. So what's the way you break gerrymanders? Break voter turnout, right? And Tyler, who overturned and said partisan gerrymandering was A-OK? On the Supreme Court justice. And who is on the ballot in 2024? So whether you agree with the current lines or you disagree with the current lines, there is someone on the ballot you can vote for who can make a difference. Turnout matters. Amen? Yes, ma'am. And up and down. I think it was Kool and the Gang who said, get down ballot. Is that right? Is anyone old enough? Okay, great. I'm glad we had this talk. Every single thing. Go ahead, Linda. Son. Yeah.
I think going through 2020, we've been provided great information for us at the director level to work with our local law enforcement on identifying these things. We've been provided with some great memos, some great guides for law enforcement with specific examples on what these things are when we deal with them. I think what we've done in Guilford County is I've got an incredible network of contacts throughout from our local law enforcement up to the FBI, if necessary, to deal with these issues. And with our precinct officials, our training is to spot it on their individual level and do what they can to stop things. So in training today and training yesterday, you know, we look at things like you know, inside of the 50-foot buffer zone where voters can't get spoken to, you know, yeah, that is 100% your jurisdiction. But if a voter says, you know, I couldn't even park because the parking lot was blocked, you go out there and you deal with that, and you call me, you call 911, you do what you need to do. If voters are being blocked from coming in the sidewalk, if you're threatened, you can call me, you call 911. And then I have the infrastructure with law enforcement to then drill down to, is this just an angry person? Is this overzealous campaigners that are just too happy and frolicking around the sidewalks? Or is this voter intimidation? I'm telling the poll workers, you just get the voters in, you get them in, and let us deal with, was that to the letter of the law intimidation? Doesn't matter, get the voters in, and then let us deal with that. Thank you. That answer it pretty well. Okay, good. Good.
And Linda's from Forsyth. Linda's from Forsyth. We're going to Forsyth in the new year. It's going to be great. The Forsyth County Board of Elections said this was the best resource they had used. Linda was there. She heard it from the horse's mouth. This is a resource that does not include reasonable resemblance or substantially similar photos, so substantial equivalence, but it will. $12 words are going to go in here after tonight. If you need more of these to distribute in your community, meet me and Tyler and Retrina. We will put the quantity you need next to your name on the sign-up sheet, and we will have these resources to you. I mean it. Please go out into the world and share everything that Director Collicutt said and about half of what we did. Amen? Yes, ma'am. And you raise an interesting point. We presented to HBCU students yesterday. They were like, what can we send to our friends who are out of state? Are the voter ID laws universal? No, they are not. But there are great national resources that are mostly accurate, and we have included those links in the FAQ you will receive if you go to this QR code. And if you registered or you put a legible email, you will receive everything first thing tomorrow morning. I am grateful for you sticking through. We were here for 2 hours talking about elections on a Thursday night. It must have been really cold outside. Take home as many mayonnaise sandwiches as you can put in your jackets. Okay? We really appreciate you. Thank you for being here tonight.